51 houses were destroyed in Jagersfontein when walls of a dam at a mine collapsed. 103 others were affected. One man died and an elderly woman is still missing. The Department of Water and Sanitation highlighted concerns over the Jagersfontein tailing facility since 2019. He had to give us an update on government's plans for the community, but also clarity on this directive is the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Deputy Minister David Mahlobo. Deputy Minister, good evening, and thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for joining us on In Focus. Let me begin by saying I fully appreciate the historical context of the challenges that have got to do with mines in South Africa, and we can go into that dating back to the 1800s and so on and so forth. But I want us to quickly get into this particular mine and the various challenges that you've had to deal with this particular mine. Yes, there's aging infrastructure. Yes, there's acid water drainage issues. Yes, there's been ownership changes in this. But what is quite key for me is the number of reports that have emerged around the activities of this particular mine, which are pointing to non-compliance. But take us to from the time in 2018 when you've given them the license to use water in that particular mine, and what has happened from there.
Firstly, Tabo, let's just say a very good evening to you and to all your viewers along the length and breadth of our land. Firstly, let's join His Excellency, our President Ramaphosa, yesterday with the Premier of the province, Minister Kubai, myself, and the Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources, including Deputy Minister of Public Enterprise. We're on the ground. And we convey our sincere condolences to the family that has lost the loved one. And we are hopeful that the rescue operation on the missing one will be found. On our side, as the Department of Water and Sanitation, as part of government response, we deployed engineers, Tabo. And the engineers yesterday, they were able to fly over to do a quick assessment so that we know whether the scene of that particular incident, we cannot have another disaster. And when our team flew over, they discovered that that mine, in terms of its operation, had that particular fine tailing storage facility, and it had two compartments. The first compartment that failed had more than 2 million cubic meters per annum of sludge, or that fine tailings that is broken. We discovered that there is another compartment next to that one, that compartment that was there. And that compartment, we discovered that the structure has cracks and it could actually fall at any time. Then we issued a directive yesterday that they must stop pumping water into the system. And I'm happy to indicate that they have stopped. They are pumping the water now into other pits, which is more safe than having problems. And then the other issue were to look at the issues of pollution of water. Remember, that thing ran until to a strait and into a Jagersfontein dam. Water samples, I can confirm now that they've been taken. We want to check the levels of toxicity, especially the arsenic. So to stop and including human beings don't consume that water.
All right.
But in the short term, water is being provided through tankering, and the system now is working in terms of the taps because we know that the electricity was out. We are very satisfied in terms of response to water. But we are still worried that what will happen is that too much of this sludge is covered a massive area in terms of square kilometers. If it can rain, we will have problem. The directive we are talking about, this mine has to take a full responsibility. When it started its operation by the new owners, it had no water license around 2012. We came in at the time because there was a complaint by citizens. We engaged them, supported them until they got their water license in 2018. When they got the water license, after so many years in terms of their abstraction of water and the disposal in the tailing dams, by 2019 we conducted an assessment. We found that they are not actually fully compliant with the license conditions. Their compliance level was around 32%. We gave them instruction to say, put a remedial plan so that you don't cause problems. And then in 2020, we did another compliance audit. We find that they are actually not doing well. They were dropped to 24. Then we directed them to say, you'll stop these operations. The tailing dams are not safe. You must apply for new tailing dams so that you can create. Because in terms of dam safety and the classification, we are holding too much water there.
Yes.
They promised to deal with these issues.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they were supposed to give us quarterly reports by professionals to say they are complying.
Yeah.
They continue to pour too much water in these dams that are not structurally safe. Remember, these dams, Thabo, there's an issue that they've been operating since around the 1800s.
Yes.
Then ultimately, what happened? They appointed consultants, very reputable consultants.
Yes.
These consultants then produced a report that was sent to us as a department in August this year, where they claimed that this structure is still in good condition.
Yes.
It can still absorb water.
Right.
Right.
Let's talk about that. First, let's go back a little bit. You said to them, cease. You said stop. I mean, in simple terms, stop doing this. Did they stop? And did you go back to follow up whether they'd stopped?
Well, we did. The reason why we said they must stop, in the main, their infringement. They were actually disposing more water in terms of the license condition than the dam it can contain.
Yes.
In other words, they were pouring more when the structure is not there. They could not stop because when we actually went in to check them, they tried to come back to the permissible levels that they were supposed to be able not to actually put water more than.
Did they say to you that stopping would be costly and stopping is going to cause us to retrench? Is that the reason that they gave you, and did you accept that reason?
Well, one of the reasons what they said, there are a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that in terms, even if they're to stop, the water that you remember the mining operation moved after 1970. They moved into an underground mining for over a long period of time. And in the underground mining, remember, there are certain equipment that is there, the structures that are there. Even if you can close the mine, they still have to actually pump the water, even if you can say stop. But when you pump the water, you must pump it in such a way that there is a tolerance level in terms of structural engineering. Then they came down to the right levels. Then we demanded that from now onwards, give us a quarterly dam safety report, an inspection report.
Yes.
And it took them time. Then they appointed people early this year, the ones that they've appointed.
All right. Let's talk about that appointment. So there is one consultancy firm, which I'm told is a respected geotechnical engineering consultant called SRK Consulting, which gave you a report in November 2020, signaling that it's called a report labeled Jagersfontein Tailing Dam Zone of Influence and Breach Analysis. So it's a risk kind of report showing that there was serious risk associated with the fine tailings disposal facility. Is the report that you're talking about of August now different to the report that you were issued in 2020 in November?
Remember, one of the things, I'm not going to speak about the name of the company because the instruction from His Excellency and government, further investigation have to be done about all those that are involved and associated. But there is a first report that was produced, that is a dam safety report in 2020 that indicated that there need to be a geotechnical assessment that needed to be conducted. Yes. That's what the report, our own report, that do a geotechnical assessment. And in the geotechnical assessment, two issues were being mentioned. One, you must have an emergency preparedness plan. If there's any disaster that can happen, will you be able to contain it?
That's where
the reason why our report was demanding that is because these guys, they were actually not complying with the volumes that they must dispose into that facility.
Right.
Secondly, we said, give us a decommissioning and closure plan for the fine tailing storage facility because the old ones,
yes,
they were no longer going to be using them because they were saturated, they were full.
Did they follow those recommendations? One, did they give you the emergency preparedness plan? And two, did they give you a plan of decommissioning those tailings dams?
They never gave us those reports. And on the basis of that, then they went ahead to actually go and do their own geotechnical assessment report. This geotechnical assessment report, it took long for them to produce it. When they produced this report, it's a report that is produced by this reputable geotechnical engineering consultant in August 2022, which is last month. And that report, because it is produced by, we had not done a peer review because we just recently received it. When we received it, it confirmed that the structure is in good condition.
Yeah.
They can still be able to use it.
Yeah.
But in our own expectation, we wanted them that if they want to continue their own operation, they need to do a new tailing dam.
Yeah.
That would be compliant, that can be classified as a dam to deal with these issues. While we had received this report, in the shortest period of time, in less than a month, then the structure failed.
Is that how it works, though, Minister? I mean, Deputy Minister, is that how it works, where you would go to the mining company and say, cease, and they say, no, we'll go and get our own consultants, and their consultants come and they give a contradictory report to the one that you have carried out, and you accept that?
Let me indicate there is a weakness when it comes to South Africa's legislation, when it comes to existing operation. In our own case, before you can actually say people must stop, you firstly do an administrative enforcement, which is part of regulating of water use, and say, do a remedial action plan. Let's monitor that the plan is working. This is called administrative enforcement in law. Then you go to the next stage when the failures continues. Then you issue directives and say, do the following things. And when those things are not being done, you can then escalate it, either to actually stop, to withdraw the license in totality, whether to suspend it. But remember, when you do these issues, there are issues around audit and parte. You give them an opportunity to respond. After nudging them for some time, then they started to actually do a quarterly report, which is the report that we wanted. It was submitted, though late, but when it was being done by a reputable organization, as we indicated very earlier, there was no doubt that they will be able to do that. But now that the incident has happened...
Before you get there, Deputy Minister, indulge me a little bit. Here's what legal experts are saying. When you issue a directive to say cease and the company doesn't listen to you, here's what they're suggesting should have happened.
The Department of Water Affairs sent a directive. That means an order directly to the mine. First of all, they said to them, despite us telling you that you're dumping excessive quantities of water and waste onto this dam, you have continued to do so in violation of the directive that we issued against you. They go on to say that, your demand that we don't take into account the safety of the dam because people are going to lose their jobs is unacceptable. And they say, and I quote, it's the mandate of this department, that's Water Affairs, to act in the interest of ensuring water resources are protected and ensuring safety aspects relating to all water-related infrastructure. They went on to say that we find your reasons unconvincing, and we are now issuing a directive, again I quote, cease all aspects of your operation relating to further disposal of any waste material on the fine tailings disposal facility.
So, Deputy Minister, they're saying after that, the action that should have followed was to find them guilty of an offense. If it's a first-time offense, you either fine them or somebody goes to prison for 5 years or both. Why did that not happen?
Well, the person who claims who is your expert today is missing the aspect of the non-compliance. The question of non-compliance, there was an issue of a discharge more than the volumes that were permissible and that were causing risk. And one of the things that had to be done was to say that cease doing those particular aspects, of which the volumes then were not released as they were supposed to be released. One of the things that we said in the beginning, remember I said there were two directives that we gave.
Yes.
That you do a geotechnical assessment.
Yes. In
the meantime, have a emergency preparedness plan. Secondly, have a decommissioning and a closure plan, because your old existing fine tailing storage facilities, already they are overcapacitated. You will need to actually build a new one so that you can get the authorization. That's the process we engage with them. And I speak with confidence. I've worked in the water space myself. Those directives, those administrative action, as I've said, we admittedly, we could actually do them much better. That's why we're looking at regulation, because if an incident, we see a particular risk, we still have to follow the process of giving a notice, giving a directive. Then the next stage, even if I'm going to suspend your water use license, I still have to give you an opportunity why I should not be able to suspend. Or even the issues of totally withdrawing that particular point. Those are the engagements that had happened between the officials of the department in Free State, trying to support that particular area, while there are those other socio-economic issues around job preservation, but also protecting the environment. That's why yesterday on site, very decisively, we issued to say, seize the matter of actually disposing on this other one, because these are the risks. Failure to do that, already the lawyers were working on withdrawing the water license.
It's easier now because, of course, the dam has burst, and the company involved will have to act, because if it doesn't, now there are other issues that have been involved, and your initial report has been proven true. But here's my question. Where you are sitting now, I know you're not a court of law, and obviously these things would still need to be ventilated in courts and wherever else. Is the mining company guilty of an offense?
Well, where we are sitting now is that there is a record of non-compliance with the conditions of the water use licenses that we gave the mine, and we do have proof of those issues of non-compliance. And in terms of the law, the mine will have to take full responsibility. But the department is going to proceed with the issues of bringing the mine into book, because in terms of pollution and the damage that they've caused, polluters will pay without any fear or favor or contradiction. But in the meantime, we are also worried as government that the issues of the potential failure of the current system that is there, there is a highly likelihood. Therefore, the preventative measures must be applied. The issue that there is going to be possibilities of rain, and all the sludge that is lying all over around Forestburg and your Shasaville and all those particular areas will be washed into the water system. Immediate steps is that it has to be rehabilitated. We have a wastewater treatment plant, the sewer plant that is there, that is surrounded by this. We checked it yesterday. We could see that there's still an issue of structural integrity that is still intact. But we need to do the rehabilitation. And then lastly, the decommissioning and closure plan will still be very important, because even if they can do this other work I'm talking about, but when it rains, there's going to be an ingress underground into that mining operation. And it will cause safety issues, but it will also cause environmental issues that have an impact on issues of water, both for the communities but also for the environment, whether groundwater, whether the surface water in our dams.
In the absence of an emergency preparedness plan, what happens?
Well, if you don't have an emergency preparedness plan, the disaster will happen, like it has happened. And in terms of the law, what do? You will then engage on the issues of rehabilitation, which is the next stage. And the rehabilitation bill, the attitude of government, is that it must be carried by the owner. It can't be carried at the expense of taxpayers. If the owner of the mine does not actually do the rehabilitation, we as a state, especially the Department of Water Affairs and Forestry, will be able to proceed and do the rehabilitation ourselves, and then later on we'll go and be able to claim against the mine the amount of money that we'll have used to ensure that the water causes and the resources are protected. That's what the law says.
No, that's precisely why I'm asking, because what we are hearing in your site visit alongside the President, but we're continuing to hear that also now with the Minister of Mineral Resources being there, is that there is this commitment by government to say, no, we will rebuild houses, or we will rehabilitate and try and get those residents in particular back on track and repair what needs to be repaired, as if government is now taking that responsibility. Are you saying what we are going to be seeing is government spending that money with the hope of going back to the company to claim it?
Well, when it comes to water-related matters, I was there when His Excellency the President led us. As a caring government, he did what he's supposed to do, that we should be able to respond as government while the investigation they proceed. In our own case, we are proceeding with our own investigations, but also ensuring that we rescue the situation. In instances where we are going to be paying as a Department of Water Affairs, Water and Sanitation, we are actually empowered by the law. And we are going to follow the law, Thabo, to the latter, that where we have spent money that was not supposed to be spent on activities of people that are holding a water license, that they have decided to default on its conditions, will be able to follow through, even if it means we go to the court of law to be able to claim those resources. But our engagement with the mine, there is a very strong feeling from the mine and a good spirit that they understand their obligation. They will come to the party and do whatever they're supposed to do on matters that are related to our work. And our teams are working jointly with them at this stage. And I don't have a complaint that they're not going to comply. But if there are any attempts of non-compliance, we'll be able then to actually deal decisively so that this recurrence cannot continue.
A quick one, Deputy Minister, in a minute, because I've got to take a break. In terms of water and drinking water and sanitation facilities, what is the plan currently for the residents, those who've been affected?
Well, they are actually receiving water, those residents, in the main from the tap. When the system went down, there was no electricity. Our pumps could not work. Therefore, the first thing that we had to do was to give them water on a temporary measure. We deployed our water board, which is Bloom Water. They provided in that particular community water tankers that are carrying water that is treated, good quality. They provided 3 of them. And also Coca-Cola South Africa, the contribution of another tanker. We're very pleased. But as I speak right now, I can confirm that the water in the main system is actually functional. The main issue now is to be able to test the water that is running in the streams, so that the issues of livestock and other people that might be using water downstream there, we must guarantee that the quality is good in the short term. And in the medium term is the cleaning of the entire area, because immediately starts to rain, it's going to wash away those toxins and the sludge into other water causes, and we must prevent it.
Deputy Minister, let me appreciate you. Thank you very much for indulging us and for coming on tonight and bringing that explanation. That's the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation there, David Mahlobo.